Hi, SiouxperCon family. Shane back again with the absolute honor to be talking to Magdalene Visaggio from Long Island. And I apologize if I slaughtered the name yet again. She is an amazing award-winning writer. We're very honored to have her with us. Our good friend Elliot Rahal suggested Magdalene to be a guest for us, and I'm so excited that she agreed to be with us. Welcome to SiouxperConline. I wish you were here in person, and I could be introducing you to hundreds of people in person. But instead, we're going to introduce you to hundreds of people online. Welcome, and thank you for coming.
I'm glad to be here. It's weird. This was going to be a really heavy travel year, and no.
Yeah. No.
I was gonna go to Sweden. I was gonna go to Poland. We were going to Scotland and Ireland on my honeymoon. And instead, nope, just chilling out here.
No, the glance around to make sure that the four walls you're looking at were still there was such a perfect moment. We were going to travel, but nope. No, we're going to just look at these four walls. So we've been talking, Megs, a lot about story and the way it's touched us and the way we tell stories during the convention here. So could you share with us what brought you into this beautiful world of storytelling?
Do you mean comics like specific? Actually, no. I can't really even tangle the two. I started reading comics when I was 7 or 8 years old. My dad brought me home a couple of issues of Action Comics that he had just picked up for himself to read when he was on the road. For those who missed the conversation that we weren't recording, I'm a child of a truck driver. And it changed my whole life. I just was utterly fixated. I was entranced. I started making my own comics when I was 8 or 9 years old. Just
on lined paper and a notebook?
Yeah. Just drawing, not on a notebook. Yeah. I would use loose lined paper and then put it in one of those really thin binders with the...
Oh, yeah. I'm
like, this is the comic book.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so... You know what?
I just never stopped. I never stopped making comics in one way or another.
You'd be surprised, or maybe you've had this conversation with so many other creators, but that is such a universal thing for comic book creators. I sat down, I started creating my own at a very young age, and almost every creator I've had the honor of talking to has brought that up. This is something that, I was so affected that I had to put my ideas on paper.
Yeah, I had never had the compulsion to do that before. The thing that I liked about it is when I was a real little kid, I thought that I was really, really good at art. And I mean, maybe I was comparatively at the time. I frankly doubt it. But I really liked the idea that it was oh, I can draw. Books were that was so much work. I was I don't understand how you could make something like this, but comics I got.
Right.
And what I seized on actually pretty quickly was some of the really weird potential that comics had. I started doing things I'd never seen done, and I now know that I was 12 when I started doing this. What do you want from me? Right. I wasn't invading the
what do you want?
I started having things where my characters would interact with the physical boundaries of the panel,
right?
Or with not only arguing with the narrator, but in fact manhandling the caption box.
Mm.
I can do whatever I want.
All out there now, right?
Yeah, and I was doing that when I was doing that when I was 12. It was this really, really, really. I was trying to do a weird, funny comic called The World of the Wacky. That was just about these 3 weird aliens who were like stick figure people, because I was like, I just want something where I can just focus on the gags and not worry about art.
Mm-hmm.
They started, they like crash landed on Earth, and I don't really remember what on earth they were trying to accomplish. It just was all this random crap happening. But that was my first time really trying to like step outside of what I thought comics were, because at that point I really only recently discovered the bigger world of comics, like outside of like superhero comics. And like I read Mouse when I was in the 5th grade, and
you're so young.
Yeah. I stole it from the library. I actually
stole it. You can make me feel older.
Get out from the library.
I don't care what comes of this. You are flying to South Dakota next year for a physical convention, because if the first 5 minutes of this are any indication, you and I are going to have a really good time. So,
thanks. I like to think of a fun lady.
You've made me laugh a million times here. So, by the way, let's get a Kickstarter going for the Weird Wacky World. Let's revisit that.
No, I'm never doing a solo Kickstarter campaign again. I do have another project that we're talking about doing a Kickstarter for it, but that's not really a Mags Visaggio project, and I wouldn't be managing it. I find Kickstarters just heinously stressful nightmares.
So Action Comics leads to you, with your loose leaf and the flink binder to hold it all in.
I got into the X-Men cartoon because that came out when I was 7.
Can we make more age kicks, because I'm really enjoying that?
Oh, I've got a friend. There's this friend I have. She's this really talented young artist that I met at a like just a small comic signing where and it ended up like pouring the whole day. So it was a Saturday in a comic shop and nobody was there. It was wild. So me and this kid just hung out, but she's like 19 and I'm 36, and she's like talking about stuff, and I'm like, wow, I'm so fucking old.
Right, that's exactly what I am. I'm 52, and and the X-Men animated series came out, and I'm like, God damn it. I was so old when that came out. But yeah, but it was very influential, right? It was. Yeah,
so X-Men was like my X-Men and Spider-Man were basically all I read. Okay. And various side things, but like the centers of my comics reading life from the age of 8 until I graduated high school. So I had basically 10 solid years was Uncanny X-Men and The Amazing Spider-Man. And
really good stories in there during that.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking like 92 to 02, so it was kind of rough waters for a lot of that. I mean,
a couple of them, yeah, but still some good stuff came out. Yeah. Well, let's
12.
Let's not talk about that. So, what did you go to school for, Megs?
I majored in and got my degree in English at Virginia Commonwealth University. I then did graduate work in moral theology at Seton Hall, and I did not finish.
Okay.
I left so I could write comments where people hit each other with guitars.
So where did writing fall in there?
Well,
obviously English.
I always wanted to be. Well, I wanted to be a writer since the end of high school. Prior to that, I wanted to be an artist. At the end of my junior year, I was like, okay, I genuinely just don't have the patience and discipline, or just the steady hand to do the work I want to do. So I decided, okay, well, I'll try writing, and I really gelled to that. I didn't really think about writing as a career until a couple of years into college. I had changed my major from poli-sci to English because I was just like, I think I just want to write. And I started taking classes that really just got me energized about the craft of writing. I was reading the kinds of books I'd never read. And I got like really fascinated with not only the narrative and aesthetic potential of the form, but also with the weirdly material elements of it, because it's text on a background. So that's like a physical artifact. And because I got really into like early 20th century modernist writing and like the interwar expatriate scene in Paris, and where people were like Gertrude Stein and E. Cummings and Joyce and Hemingway and all that stuff, Juna Barnes, Nina Loy. There is so much wild experimentation going on in just the use of English, both as a language you hear, then as a language you read, and then as a physical artifact on a page. And that naturally gelled with how I liked thinking about, how I was already like really into comics, and which is all about the physicality of the page, and the page as a unit. But I mean, like, I never stopped making comics. So like that whole period from the very first issue of The Amazing Spider-Boy in 1992 all the way to through that whole period on, I'm making comics in one form or another. Even if I'm not making them, I'm thinking about them, I'm planning them, I'm dreaming of comics, I'm writing stories in my head. I tried to get serious in high school and tried to, I'm gonna just sit down and write a script. And I got 14 pages in and nothing was happening, and it was terrible, and I hated it. And so I was like, okay, so I just can't script. That's okay. I'll figure something out. And so I started doing more prose fiction. I started novels and never got finished, which do have some work that I'm genuinely really proud of in there. Like even this far on, I really like how I was using language. And actually the lessons I learned doing the prose, I carried over actually into Kim and Kim. Because I really love, if you couldn't tell, I love really elongated, breathless, run-on sentences.
I hadn't noticed that. That's really surprising to me so far.
I love the energy, and I kind of figured out that I didn't have to use any punctuation other than a period. It really opened up a lot of joy in the medium for me, because I just find this really fun to write. But yeah.
So how much of you is in Kim and Kim? Because Kim and Kim's a very smart book, and I can tell that you're very smart. So how much of you is invested? I mean,
that's
personality isn't that?
Oh, I mean, well, Kim and Kim is, I'm going to say, quite a lot, and simultaneously less and more than that. It's a little complicated. So I was developing Kim and Kim in the year before I transitioned with my best friend Katie, and it was just kind of like deliberate posturing to an extent. Like I was constructing in that book sort of, well, this is the kind of girl I am, and I was building it while working on that book, and writing that book was an extremely big part of that process, and it was sort of a feedback loop. So there's a lot of me in it in that sense. I also feel like the kind of like joyous embrace of being just like a complete garbage fire. That's something that is very much a part of myself, but that's also something that I took out of Kim and Kim. So that's the thing that's really great about it, is it's not just that I put myself into it, it's that doing that book was just very formative for my identity in this really big way. I don't think any book will ever quite mean to me what that book means to me.
Megs, it's so smart, and now that you say that, like, I immediately want to go back and reread, not as a analysis of you and as a person, but as to look at the cues of where you were finding and developing the woman that you are, you know, because obviously, you know, during transition, this is a choice that people that I know, they've gone through transition, and I don't want to project anything onto you. But this is a very life affirming moment. Yeah, yep. And not something we come to lightly. But then there's the how am I expected to be as a female, or how am I expected to be as a male? You know, am I still this? Right?
It's really complicated. It's really complicated stuff. One of the things that we run into a lot in the trans community, especially. You see this in other queer communities too, but I feel like I'm not going to try to make like a big, overwhelming, pronouncing statement about transness. I'm just going to comment on a trend that I have noticed that I think speaks to an experience many of us have had. I always try to be very careful and hedge my language when I talk about trans issues, because I never want it to be like I'm the authority or anything like that. Because I'm just another dumbass trying to figure shit out. I'm just another dumbass trying to figure everything out. But one of the things that I run into a lot is that kind of punky aggro vibe with kind of gothy, a little punk. Is something that trans women, at least white trans women, I think very frequently glom onto. And the reason for that is because for me, I'm not going to talk about for other women, for me is that felt safe. That was like a way to articulate and negotiate a femininity in a way that still clicked with the values that I had. It was a way, it's like, oh, I can be a girl, but it's like, it's fine because I'm not going to be all like, hee frilly. I'm going to be, you know, like, fuck you, bitches. Let me kick you with my high heels, you know?
Right.
And there's so much anger already for trans people. Anger that comes out of hurt and sadness and loss and regret.
Yeah. And
that also gives us an outlet to express that. It gives us an outlet to be tough in the face of the things that scare us. Again, I'm using generalizing language, but again, talking just for me.
Yeah.
And Kim and Kim played a really big role in that. And
yeah, Megs, obviously it did, because there's this punk rock edge. There's this controlled anger to Kim and Kim, right? That just it drives the story to its resolution.
Yeah, the thing about Kim and Kim that I always glom onto the most is, more than angry, I like that it's, how do I find the word? It revels in itself. It revels in its, not the book revels in itself, the girls revel in just, they're like, yes, we are trash. We are
this is who I am. Right.
Talking irresponsible failures of human beings. And that's okay sometimes.
Yes, it has. So for me, that book so much reminded me of Brandon Graham's writing, you know, in I don't know if you've read his, you know, King City and some of his, you know, Warhead Torpedoes, this is who we are, right? We are the drudges of society. We are trash. We are who we are. And screw you, man. This is just, we enjoy who we are. And I love that piece of Kim and Kim so much.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes I think that's kind of the only way to get through it. And honestly, that act of, I guess, just joy in spite of things,
right,
was, you know, coming out of, I mean, I was just like, I wasted my 20s. I don't mean like I wasted them. I didn't waste them in a fun way.
Yeah.
I literally just, I kind of feel like I just kind of rotted. I was directionless. I didn't have any follow through. I didn't have any initiative. I was just inert for really just between 18 and 31. I just felt like I was stuck, and I couldn't make any like decisions for my life or what I wanted. And I guess I just kind of needed to make a statement to myself that it's okay to have failed at things.
Yeah.
And to basically just kind of own that, to own that experience, and to spend some time examining it and thinking about those emotions. And the cool thing is that Kim and Kim was my ticket out of that. Like everything I'm by my standard of the word, wildly successful. Like
sure.
I'm not rich. I'm not even well off, just considering where I live. But like, because I'm in Manhattan. But like, I'm getting by, and I do not worry from month to month how I'm paying for rent, how I'm paying for food, or any of that. I'm able to meet my obligations and get things for myself for fun as I'm able to just kind of like live an adult life. And it's amazing to me that Kim and Kim kind of launched me into that, because it's a book about not being able to. Right.
That's exactly where my mind was going as we're talking about this. Like the irony. I mean, Alanis Morissette could write a whole new song off this, right? This is a story about not reaching that, and because of that story, you reached that place. And it's pretty freaking amazing, man.
Well, it's because I couldn't have written it until I was in a place where I could start to make decisions for myself.
Right.
Like, I mean, hell, the book itself, everything that it is, like you know, you've read it, you know how, like, especially the first volume is just, I am just throwing every piece of spaghetti I can find. And that was on purpose, because I used to get really paralyzed by making story decisions, that I'd be like, does this make sense? Is this airtight? And I would get so caught up in needing everything to every bolt to be as tight as it could be, that it just kind of turned into pointless, paralyzing world building. Yeah. And so with Kim and Kim, I made the decision immediately that I'm going to say yes to every stupid idea I have. I was like, okay, so what are things that I think are cool? All right, well, I've always wanted to do a book where someone has a flying van. I already tried to come up with ideas for that before. I love I like rock music. I like dyed hair and tattoos and piercings. I really like Fooly Cooly, which is where I got the bass guitar as a weapon.
That's so awesome.
Fooly Cooly gave me permission to do so many things just in my life. I haven't even seen it that many times, but I have carried that story forward. Because narrative decisions and story decisions, aesthetic decisions, is because everything in there is just, hey, I just thought this would be cool. I thought that would look cool. And so I kind of started really embracing it. It doesn't have to make sense. It only has to work. And
there you go. That's such a great quote. That right there, that's headstone quote right there, baby. That's awesome.
That is my philosophy. Like, I'm not gonna get okay, I get really anal about Star Trek, but that's it. I have unreasonable expectations of Star Trek, and I know that about myself. And I know that it doesn't matter that the uniforms in Lower Decks make no sense on the timeline, because it doesn't matter. And so I just have to remind myself of that periodically. Right. That there is no world that this is describing. It's all just people doing stuff.
You have to remove yourself. You have to remove your fandom sometimes to enjoy the actual story.
Yeah. And I've gotten really fascinated. This is going off on a bit of a tangent, but I've gotten really fascinated by the fact that that none of it's real. Like, TV's not real. There's nothing. There's no. But like, not as a joke. I mean, like, from a really deliberate point of view, I'm really fascinated by that. Like, when you watch a TV show, you're not seeing characters. You're seeing actors pretending to be characters. They're citing pre-written lines that they've said over and over and over and over again, so as to replicate something that kind of feels like watching genuine people, but isn't actually anything like it. From episode to episode of Star Trek, there's no Federation. There's no Klingons. There's none of it. It's just a bunch of people sitting in a room making stuff up, and then someone else putting on a costume and pretending to do those things. And then someone else filming that, and then another person taking all that film and then slicing it up into really specific bits so that you can then construct something that feels like a continuous moment but isn't one.
This is the most meta moment of SiouxperConline yet.
I mean, I don't even think of it as meta because I'm just because I'm not. I don't think it's meta because it's native to the form. Like,
yeah, sure.
Like, if you've ever read a book with an omniscient third-person narrator, you know that no one is talking to you.
Right.
When you read a book with a limited perspective first-person narrator, they're not actually reciting their thoughts to you. And if they die at the end of the story, they're not telling you the story after they died. It's just convention. Everything is just convention. There's this really cool bit in Mulholland Drive when the action of the movie stops. It's like three-quarters of the way in, and suddenly we're in a theater, and this guy is telling you there is no band, there is no orchestra, none of this is real. And then a woman comes out and sings a really heartfelt song before collapsing dead in the middle of it. But the song continues because she wasn't saying anything. Right. And I'm really fascinated by the potential of those things for like that, not about breaking the wall, but reminding you that there isn't one. Mm-hmm. And that we're all just in agreement.
It goes back to your loose leaf notebooks and pushing against the borders. I mean, it really does.
Yeah, I am fascinated by this stuff.
This has been there with you from the start of it, hasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, Eternity Girl is just the end result of a dream story I've been working on since 2006. Yeah, like
that's also
very
really
much pushing against like the boundaries of the medium. And I don't even want to push against them because I want to break them. I just want to remind the audience that they're there. And I want to remind them that you're here to have an emotional experience, not to be fooled about the existence of a world or to be given something that's like a completely foolproof artifact with no internal contradictions, because it's just stuff someone made up.
Right. All of it is, but yeah, I mean, we could trace every story back to it's a made up version so that I can compensate for what I don't understand or for what I'm going through. It's my own therapeutic moment as I tell you this story, right? It's my own way of understanding. It's the beauty and power of it.
Creating is an emotional and aesthetic experience. This is the thing I really love about Lynch. I didn't get into Lynch until after I wrote Eternity Girl because my partner read Eternity Girl and was like, you would really love David Lynch. And she was very right. But like, there's a couple of bits in Eternity Girl where we just don't have a panel that follows narratively.
Right,
it's
right.
The image of something that I want to evoke a feeling in you on that page.
So was that your guidance? Did you specifically go that way?
Yes.
Okay, so then Sonny brought your vision in, right? And but you guided that?
So I'm what I'm saying is like I made clear the work I wanted a page to do, and then Sonny solved that page in the smartest way possible, in the smartest way he could, I should say. Right, and I think he made extremely smart decisions where he deviates from me. I think he adds so much to the page. I think he increases the level of engagement with the material of the book, with like just the physical fact that you're looking at art, because he there's these bits where like he wants you to look at this art and recognize this. He really wants you to see that things that are happening simultaneously aren't happening simultaneously, that there's a progression of time in a comic panel. It's not a moment. It's a series of moments with a representative image, and that means we can play with that.
Yeah, it's really a great collaboration, because it's almost, and at times it feels like almost an homage to the early days of sequential storytelling.
Yeah,
and then
I love early comics.
Yeah, and then at other times it's like, wow, this is completely new. This is taking comics to a new place. What a great collaboration.
To a new place, but I just want to take them to some place I thought was interesting. Like,
sure.
I mean, I have no compunction doing work that other people have done, because I think it's fun to do it. Like, Baker Queen is not earth-shattering comics, but it's a fun book that I love to write.
Yeah.
You know, with characters that I enjoy spending time with.
Sure.
But like, yeah, I'm really just fascinated by the form of this. Like, I got really when I was a kid, I got really into ancient Egypt, because I was really into aliens, and when you
sure.
into aliens,
yeah,
but I got really fascinated by hieroglyphics, because they don't organize the story the way comics do, but they're still working in a way that does what comics does.
Still visual, right? It's still visual.
Not just that it's still visual, it's still narrative. It's just not the same kind of narrative. It's telling you a story through big picture sequences and depictions of events that you then kind of have to wend your way through, following this non-intuitive path. It's something you have to know how to read, but I'm not talking about just like the pictogram, like the ideograms or the pictograms, but just like the parts of it, they're just flatly narrative. They're just pictorial storytelling. They just use pictures and storytelling in a fundamentally different way, which we can do with comics. You know, I'm very interested in just what else can this thing do.
You're at the right time then, aren't you? I mean, this is an exciting time for storytelling through comics. The boundaries are being allowed to be pushed, even in established characters to a certain point. There is some push.
To a degree, I've been a little. I mean, just full disclosure, I've pulled back a good bit from periodical comics, just because I just found. I still do them, obviously. I mean, I just had 2 announced today.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. I'm doing. I have a story in one of the death metal books, and Ginny Hex one shot.
Oh, cool! You will have. That'll be fun. I mean, just the little bit of time I've known you, all of a sudden, like, yeah, that's going to be interesting. That's a voice. I'm very
excited about that one. But what was I fucking saying? Oh yeah, so like I have kind of pulled back a bit from periodical comics, just because I found chasing work a weirdly dehumanizing experience.
Yeah.
I love doing periodical comics. I do. I don't enjoy working in the industry. So I really made a conscious decision to. This year to focus on long form graphic novel fiction, and that's been eating up all of my year. It's been great, but
I as a reader, I've had really big discussions with people who want to read traditional, in continuity. Why are they rebooting at number 1? Why is this happening? I want to read just a complete story. I don't care what the numbering is. I don't care. Right. I just want to read a good story. That's what draws me in as a reader.
because none of it's real. It can just be what it is.
Right,
like,
right.
That's the thing I have to remind myself every time I watch Lower Decks, because that's the thing I like. I really love this show, but it's a wildly different take on Star Trek.
It is.
Like, and there's no way to really reconcile it with canon because things are happening that physically can't happen. There's just tonal shifts in how it understands and interacts within its world that I feel like you're never gonna translate over to live action, you know? And and that's okay because it just has to feel right. It just has to be Star Trek.
Well, and fanboys, fanboys and fangirls, we can be terrible, right? You know, well, they wouldn't have, this isn't how that character would act. Bullshit. That's how they act for that writer, and that's okay, right? We have to be.
I do think it's possible to fundamentally misunderstand a character.
Sure, it is. It is. That's not what I'm talking about.
I don't think that in itself breaks a book, but it can certainly make it a jarring Superman experience.
Sure.
And so I do think there's an element, if you're going to use these characters, use them. Don't use like some completely unrecognizable version of the character wearing the same pants.
Right. I understand that. Yeah, there's a responsibility when you're in someone else's house not to redecorate it to your liking, to respect that you're in their home, right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of, I understand that completely. So Eternity Girl fits the thematic of Kim and Kim. Do you believe that Dr. Mirage is kind of the end of that trilogy of kind of that thematic feel?
You know, that's what it was supposed to be.
Okay.
That is what it was supposed to be.
I'm really glad I caught that. I am so proud of myself that I caught that, Meg.
I am too. I mean, wow. Really, what I really consider like, I really have like a death trilogy that is Eternity Girl, Sex Life Revolution, and Dr. Mirage. Those are my death books. And which were the books you named again? I feel like I missed. I think my brain went in the wrong direction.
No, I said, for me, the end of a thematic trilogy was Kim and Kim to Eternity to Mirage.
Which
this kind of arc of view of change of they thematically. I understand that they're not in the same universe. That they're not the
no. I'm all about
thematically they fit, and it feels like Mirage is the last chapter of that.
So what's the connective tissue that you're seeing? I'm really curious.
So what I'm seeing is I hate this acceptance, change, and empowerment. That's what I see.
That's interesting.
I could be completely wrong.
I don't think you're wrong.
As a reader of your work, Megs, that's the theme that I see carry through this arc of three. Because I can look at someone's writing. Let's just throw out who. Jeff Lemire. I don't
know how, but I knew you were going to say Jeff Lemire.
So I can look at it and see a theme, right? I don't care what character or what playground, if it's his own or if he's playing to someone else's. There's a theme, right? There's a theme of loss, of outcast and acceptance eventually, right? Of finding yourself. But there is a change and acceptance and empowerment that I see in those three books of yours. I think
that's a really good read. I think that's a really good read, and I think that's a pretty accurate beat of who I was when I was writing each of those books.
Yeah.
I mean, Eternity Girl was such like a huge left field move for me, from the kind of brand I've been building at that point, and that was a really scary time in my life for a lot of reasons. In terms of just like my whole world was shifting around me. My marriage had ended. So I was in my own, I wasn't living with a partner anymore. I had lost a job. I had just lost my job. Like those happened the same weekend. That was that was a fun weekend. And so I was kind of like, all right, so that's over now. And so that, like early 2017 feels like...
There's the change. That's
early 2017, like absolutely this massive dividing line in my life.
So Megs, there was actually physical, real life-changing experiences happening. I felt that in your book.
Yeah, and it was also and what's cool is the book is also about recovery. And suicidality. And 2017 was a very suicidal year.
Okay.
And so it was good to be able to like do this work that was about something has ended, but that doesn't mean anything's over.
It's right. Just that, if we're going to take this back to the metaphorical reading, that page turned, right? That page turned. Those words are gone. Now there's new words on this same vessel, right? Yeah. It's really, really beautiful, Mags. I mean that in the most sincere way as someone who, I work with broken people for a living. I mean, I'm an addiction counselor. I work with people. I work with people in recovery and finding themselves and their voice. And I'm 26 years in recovery myself. And so I get it, man. I get that. And I think there's an empathetic, universal empathy that people who've been through trauma recognize in each other.
I do too. Man, it's a bitch. What's really interesting, though, I think it's, if I can digress off comics entirely.
Oh, please do.
I'm stumbling over my thoughts. You mentioned being in addiction counseling. I found that interesting because so one of my good friends who is also someone who has suffered from lifelong chronic suicidality, coming out of just various forms of childhood trauma. Always, she described it one day to me. This was actually at the beginning of this year, right after BoJack Horseman came out. The last So did you see the most recent batch?
I haven't. I have not.
There's an episode. I don't want to spoil this for anybody, but whatever. There's an episode that I found extremely hard to watch.
Okay.
Like a deeply upsetting way because of how it dredged up really suicidal feelings. And
so it was that real. It was that immersive that it brought out.
Like the entire episode is literally just about the emotions surrounding suicide. There's this, if I may, I recommend you look up a clip called that's literally just a character reciting a poem called "The View from Halfway Down," and that demolished me. The whole episode demolished me because so much of it is just about accepting that you're gonna die right now, which is the emotional work of suicide that I've always had the hardest time with, and that's part of the reason why I've never done it.
Sure.
And this really freaked me out because it was like, oh God, oh God, oh God, oh God, oh God, oh God, why do I still want to die? And so I reached out to my friend, and she was like, because I needed to talk to somebody at that moment.
Right.
And I didn't want to freak out my partner quite yet.
And there has never been a more truthful statement about partnership and relationship than that. I didn't want to freak him out yet.
like if I could avoid it, I wanted to.
Yeah. No, that was such an honest, and vulnerable statement.
Yeah, she said, but like, so my friend said that suicidality is like functions exactly like addiction. Mm-hmm. And that you're going to have good days. You're going to have days, weeks, months where it's not a problem at all. And sometime you're going to hear the call of the lonesome train. You're going to think about it, and you're not even going to know why you're going to think about it, except that it's comfortable to think about. Mm-hmm. It feels familiar and safe in a way, because you're like, oh, all of the things in the future that I don't know, all the things that I don't know how to deal with, they could just be gone, and I could just be gone. And I would exist exactly as much as Spider-Man exists. And Spider-Man's doing okay not existing.
Oh, Megs, wow. And yes. So if I may share a relatable story, if you don't mind.
Go for it. This is apparently a therapy con.
Well, what it is it's real, and that's what I want from SiouxperCon. I just want real moments. I don't want stage moments ever, because that doesn't work for me. So 2 years ago, when my then 10-year-old son was diagnosed with stage 4 brain cancer, I'm 24 years into my sobriety, and in fact, I just had my 24-year birthday of being off of amphetamines. And they brought us from 12-hour surgery, and they bring him up to recovery, Megs, and there's this med drawer.
There's this what?
Med drawer, medication drawer, and it has a combination on it, right? I didn't even realize I was memorizing the conversation. I watched her hands every time she came into the room, and I memorized the combination. That's how quick the addictive behavior when faced with extreme trauma came back.
I was on my way. This was 2 days after Attorney Girl #1 dropped. I was on a train down to Annapolis for a signing. And that day, a few people, I'm not gonna name the group they might have been affiliated with, implied that I was glamorizing and glorifying suicide.
Oh, Jesus.
And by the time I got off that train, I was like, I'm gonna kill myself after they drop me off at my hotel. I was gonna do it. I was in it at that right then, right there. I had a plan. I had everything, and the only thing was like, I'm gonna pick up some Ben and Jerry's. I'm gonna eat some Ben and Jerry's, and then I'm gonna go walk into traffic because there's a highway right by my hotel, and there wasn't a spoon in my hotel room.
See, intervention.
That got in the way.
It's right. It's hope, right? It's hope when we don't see it, but when we need it. And that's, I feel silly tying this back in, but Mags, at the end of the day, that's what I get from every one of your stories. That it's okay. That it's okay. You have fallen. You're bloody. You're dirty. But it's okay. It's okay.
That's kind of my deal. Like, I've been fired from so many jobs. I'm on the autism spectrum, and I have some very real executive dysfunctions that make it hard for me to hold down a normal job. Just makes it extremely difficult. There's just ways that my brain doesn't work, that it has to work when you have a job that has tasks that have to happen. Right. And I have a really hard time just like keeping all that shit straight, making sure it's getting done, regulating the emotions surrounding doing it, stuff like that. And So I spent my 20s lurching from unexpected unemployment to unexpected unemployment. I was broke and I was depressed, and I thought that there was literally no way I could ever possibly get out of that. And
you did.
You know, I mean, but like the thing about comics is I'm like, the thing about what I do in my writing, what I want to do in my comics, is that so much of it just comes out of just like redeeming the sense that you're a failure.
Right. Oh. Yeah. Yeah.
By normalizing failure.
Which we should, as a society, do more.
I've had to make myself okay with failure to even do the work that I do. Like I used to try to write things when I mentioned like I have all these unfinished novels, and the reason I have unfinished novels is because they weren't capital G genius. They weren't going to change the face of letters.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
And if I couldn't do that, then I was just a piece of garbage hack who had no business doing anything, and I hadn't ever lived, and I hadn't learned anything, and I didn't know anything, and so who was I kidding? And Kim and Kim helped me, was my road out of doing that.
It was.
To just be like, it's okay to suck. Like I can just suck. I can just like, and it's okay because everybody sucks sometimes.
Right.
Like I've written bad comics. I know I've written bad comics. I have stuff out that I am not proud of, but I also have stuff out that I'm not proud of that other people love.
Yeah. And it wasn't the Clone Wars. And
it wasn't what?
Well, not Clone Wars. It wasn't Clone Saga. It wasn't Spider-Man Clone Saga. So, you know, you're all right.
Yeah. Look, that happened when I was exactly the right age to think it was really cool.
Well, you know what? There's somebody out there who even your stuff, and you implied it, even your stuff that you think sucked, there's somebody out there going, this spoke to me.
I mean, frankly, like that Dazzler thing, I did it a couple of years ago.
Yep.
I was very unhappy with that book for a lot of reasons. There was a massive editorial change in direction when it was already drawn, because it had been delayed from where it was originally coming out. So no, it was no longer coming off of Secret Empire, and so what the story was about had to be changed because I wanted to deal with people who were unhappy that Hydra had lost, and and how that affected the mutant community, and what that experience was like. And
holy smokes, were you ahead of the curve, because that might be coming.
No shit. And
Hydra might lose.
and Marvel stepped in there like, it's been too long. And I'm like, and I'm just thinking, I didn't delay the book for 8 months.
Yeah.
From when it was supposed to come out for no reason. And I had to rewrite the story around existing art so as to minimize the amount of redrawing.
Oh my gosh.
That needed to be done. And it's not the book I wanted to make. It's not even close to the book I wanted to make. I wanted to do a book about marginalized people standing up to overt, concentrated, and dominant position bigotry. And instead it just kind of became about little squabbles within marginalized communities, which is not anything I've set out to do. It's not the story I wanted to tell, and I was really unhappy. I have people who found that book that I really don't like my work in that. I think Laura Braga did great art, but I think what the story ended up becoming. But there are people who have come up to me and told me how much that Dazzler meant to them.
Oh.
And that's the really cool thing, is because I think of that book as a failure, but that's just me.
Right.
You know?
I
subjectivity, the subjectivity of experience.
Well, this, Mags, has been a beautiful experience this hour with you that has flown by.
Wow, really? Good God.
But seriously, thank you, because this, you know, I look for people like you. You know, Mr. Rogers told us to look for helpers. Instead, I look for people who exude care and love and hope. And you have that. And I appreciate you so much. I appreciate you. Keep getting up. Every time, keep getting up.
I'm having a hard time staying asleep, so that's not even going to be a problem.
Girl.
I have to be at the office every day, and I'm waking up sometimes at like 5:45, and I just can't fall back.
You got to feed the chicken.
Oh, I'm deflecting. Oh God, deflector's down. Deflector's
That's okay.
down.
It's okay. Hey, thank you again, and we will make sure to push people towards everything that you do, and we are going to get you out to Sioux Falls, South Dakota.
I've always wanted to see the Dakotas.
If for no other reason, I want to put you and Elliot Rahal in the same room and see which one tires out first.
Oh, I mean, we hung out. We actually just kind of feed ourselves.
Yeah,
like,
so
our energy.
But I want to run numbers.
We have, like,
I want to see if I can make a side money.
We have weirdly specific biographies, like weirdly similar biographies in weirdly specific ways.
Yeah.
It's a whole thing.
No, I want to get you two together. Yeah, it'll be great. Thank you, guys. Stay tuned here on SiouxperConline for the next wonderful interview. We'll be back.
Thank you for having me. This was wonderful.
You bet.